Welcome into the block. I'm Emily Proud. Coach Carl, Reed, and Blake Brockermeyer also here, and I'm not going to bash any other national college football shows or clap back at fans' feedback, but the common thread is that we're not talking enough about insert favorite player on favorite team, so it's time for a Talk More Top 3. And before you complain about SEC bias, there's not a single player from the Southeastern Conference on these lists. So let's show you who we're highlighting. Carl, we'll talk about Ivan Pace Jr., Talia Tungo-Vailoa, and Xavier Hutchinson. Blake's breaking down Max Duggan, Carl Phillips, and Charlie Jones. So let's get right into it. Pace is tied for 5th in the nation in tackles with 56. He's 2nd in sacks with 6. Carl, the Bearcats lost 7 defensive starters from last year's historic season. So how much more impressive is Pace's performance so far this year?
Pace was one of the gems of the transfer portal era last year after having a huge all-league performance at Miami of Ohio. Entered the transfer portal looking for a bigger stage to perform on, and he's fit right into Luke Fickell's defense, and he has been absolutely amazing. He's a guy that NFL GMs and scouts are talking about quite a bit, and for him to come in and solidify the Bearcat defense the way that he has, after the amount of guys they lost, has been really special. I think that he's going to be a fixture in this defense. Well, he is the fixture of the defense, rather, but the Bearcats going into the Big 12 are going to be a formidable group to deal with for a long time. Luke Fickell showing that he can plug and play guys and replace guys, and Pace is a big-time player.
Yeah, Blake, how much is this kind of proof that Fickell can continue to reload, quite not on the level of an Alabama or a Georgia, but that they're still consistently solid year after year?
Well, he's done an incredible job. I'm still shocked that he's at Cincinnati still for what a great job he's done. Cincinnati is a developmental program. They take a lot of scraps from other teams that they don't want, and he turns them into players. So when you can find a coach like that can develop guys, put them in the right system for success, then that's what kids are looking for: an opportunity to play, have success, and be in the right fit. And Luke Fickell's as good a defensive coach as there is, and I agree with Carl. They're going to be a big-time problem in the Big 12.
Oh, yeah.
And Blake, one of the reasons that I expect Ivan Pace the way that I do is we live in this era where a lot of high school players feel slept on. They feel disrespected. He went to Miami of Ohio in the MAC conference and just completely dominated and played his way. He's one of the success stories of the transfer portal. He played his way into a bigger situation, and that's what you have to do a lot of times when you're a guy that comes into high school that you feel like you were a bit underrated. He performed and has continued to perform a special work ethic from a special player.
We'll talk about another transfer portal success in just a little bit. But first, this next one is kind of low-key been one of my favorite players. TCU quarterback Max Duggan has quietly gone to work since taking over the starting job. He has 3 starts and boasts an 11-0 touchdown to interception ratio and exploded for a 67-yard rushing TD in the Horned Frogs' beatdown of OU. Blake, is Duggan for real?
Yeah, he is right now. I mean, he accounted for 418 yards of total offense, 5 touchdowns. He's had an interesting career at TCU. He's had flashes of greatness. He's known as more of a mobile running quarterback that can make some throws, but his accuracy has been on and off over the last few years. Last year it was mostly off. This year, hats off to Garrett Riley and their offensive staff for giving him a chance, for developing his passing game and putting weapons around him. And like we just talked about with Ivan Pace, giving him a chance to succeed. I mean, every quarterback can't just drop back and throw the ball or just run the ball. You got to call plays that put these guys in positions for success. And Max Duggan's taken advantage of it, and it's really been a great story so far for TCU.
It's Garrett. Hey Blake, I wonder is Garrett Riley, did he steal his brother Lincoln's playbook and use it with Max Duggan? Because he's looking like one of those Heisman Trophy quarterbacks that Lincoln coached at Oklahoma. He's just doing a phenomenal job. Their offense is top tier. And Duggan and he's the man so far this year.
Well, the unusual thing to me is Sonny Dykes is known as an air raid guy. He likes to throw the ball, likes to spread you out. I mean, they like to run the ball obviously as well. And so to convert Duggan into this system where he was mainly known for his legs, that's what's really blown me away this year. And I hope he continues to have success. It's been a fun deal to living here in Fort Worth and watching it.
Yeah, and for a dynamic runner, it's that 0 in the interception column that really impresses me. He is making some great decisions at the quarterback position, and looking forward to seeing him this Saturday. Well, speaking of quarterbacks who need a little bit more love, how about Taulia Tagovailoa? He is second in the Big Ten in passing yards and completion percentage. But Carl, what do you like most about this Maryland quarterback?
He's spinning the football, and he's doing it for a guy that he's very familiar with, and Mike Locksley. Those guys haven't come over together from the University of Alabama. And he's showing that he's not just to his little brother. He can do his own thing. And he's making a hell of a name for himself with the way he's been playing at Maryland. They're 4-1. He's making all the throws. He's showing good athletic ability and mobility to escape the rush. And he's playing with a ton of moxie and enthusiasm. He's playing his way into being one of the top quarterbacks in the country. He's making big noise in the Big Ten and has Maryland well positioned for a very strong finish.
Blake, I see you nodding your head back and forth. Is he one of the top quarterbacks in the country?
I don't know about the country, but he's having a hell of a season this year. He's a really good quarterback, like Carl mentioned. I mean, he can really spin the ball like his brother. He's got a lot of talent. They're not the most talented team in the country around him. They do have some receivers that are pretty good and a couple of offensive linemen who I really like, but he's doing a lot of this on his own. And I think it's just impressive the way that Maryland is starting to put it together this year. Let's see if they can finish as the season continues.
He certainly put up a tough fight against, who was it, Michigan a few days ago? It's pretty awesome. Yeah. All right, let's go from quarter to cornerback. If you didn't know the name Clark Phillips before, you heard it a lot in Utah's latest win over Oregon State as he grabbed 3 interceptions and even returned one of those for a touchdown. So Blake, I mean, enough said, right?
Yeah, Clark Phillips is a guy that I had in my way too early mock 23 draft last year after the 22 draft. He's got cat-like quickness. He's a ball hawk. He's got 4 interceptions this year. Like you said, three last week, 1 for a pick 6. He really kind of came on the radar in the Rose Bowl last year, at least in my eyes, just for how he played against Ohio State. He had a great game against them. Obviously, their defense got shredded by Jackson Smith and Jigman, but I thought he played a pretty good game. He had some nice plays where he's stripping the ball and making plays. So I think he's a name to look for in the NFL draft this year as a guy that's got a chance to go day 1, day 2 at the latest. Cornerbacks are hard to come by, and he's got a lot of DNA in his system that if I'm an NFL team, I'm going to be looking for.
And Blake, I think you're right. The college football world might just be catching on to who this guy is from a fan perspective, but the NFL personnel knows exactly who this guy is. We're going to see him having a really great impact on college football the rest of the season, and he will get his name called as a Sunday player.
All right, Blake, here's a little virtual pat on the back for calling that early, or I guess late last season, headed into this year, certainly has come to fruition. Well, Iowa State's Xavier Hutchinson is a workhorse for the Cyclones, averaging nearly 10 catches a game. But Carl, why is he a name that we should know a little bit better?
Because he does what I think gets overlooked the most from the wide receiver position. He consistently catches the football. In this day and age, we got some big-time receivers that'll put it on the ground every once in a while. But Big X, every time you throw it to him, he's as sure-handed of a guy as you can get. He continues to move the chains. He'll go up and catch it in traffic. 500 yards receiving so far on 49 catches, 5 touchdowns. He's the man at Iowa State, but he can catch the football. And my personal belief has always been from the wide receiver position, we need guys who don't drop passes, and he's a guy that delivers all the time with big catch after big catch.
Big X. I like it. Speaking of wide receivers, Blake, you have picked Charlie Jones to highlight. The wideout has led Purdue in receptions in every single game, every single one. He is currently on pace for 1,400 plus yards. So how much did a change of scenery help him thrive?
This was one of the all-time great transfer portaling. I mean, Charlie Jones must have seen this coming from a mile away. His entire season at Iowa last year, he had 21 catches, 323 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's currently got 47 for almost 600 yards and 7 touchdowns. So I'm not a great mathematician, but by the end of the season, if he stays healthy, he'll have over 100 receptions. And he's a big time playmaker for them. He's always been a great returner at Iowa. He was a very good returner for them. So I mean, he went from probably being completely unknown this year at Iowa to being a big time prospect, a guy that you would think someone like Bill Belichick would be licking his chops for come the draft. But he's had an amazing season, a great player, and guy that we never would have probably known about unless he went to a team that threw the ball like Purdue does.
Isn't it crazy how you go from stock blocking and doing, motion crackback blocks on safeties to now you have quadrupled your offensive production. And it's really just because of the change in system that he went to. This guy has put himself in the position, Blake, and it seems like the common denominator that we're talking about with these guys we're speaking on today is the National Football League. These are the guys that fill up the rosters on NFL teams. You mentioned the New England Patriots. This guy is going to find himself a great role on an NFL franchise, and it's one of the reasons is going to be because he made the move that he made, and so we're getting to see his true skills as a wide receiver in the passing game.
Yeah, he's going to be a weapon as a receiver, probably a number 3-4 receiver, but he's going to kill it on special teams in all the different units that they play in coverage and returning. He could end up having a really good career as a special teams ace at the next level.
Yeah, and guys, it doesn't take an expert football analyst to see that a wide receiver is going to have a little bit more fun in, this kind of offense at Purdue as opposed to what we've seen from Iowa. But Blake, have you seen a difference in Charlie's game at all year to year? Has he changed anything, or is it all scheme and fit and what he's finding at Purdue?
I think it's more scheme and fit. I mean, I think he's always been a good player. I watched him last year. I did a breakdown on Iowa at some point last year. I can't remember when, but I mean, he was catching the ball. They were throwing the ball to him a little bit. Like I said, he caught 21 balls last year, but he was more known of, at least by me, who doesn't follow Iowa every single week, as a returner. And so he's been able to elevate his game, take it to another level. He's probably always been this good of a receiver. It's just like we said, it's all about system and fit, and you can't just go chasing logos for something that makes you feel good. You got to go to the place that fits your system, your style of play, and for everyone it's different.
Amen. And well said. I will say that Carl saying that these are guys that you're going to hear on Sundays coming down the block. Remember this. Remember this episode. We'll come back. We'll show you some of these guys later in the season to see how they fit. All right. Time now for some game picks. And here is today's menu. Tennessee at LSU, TCU, Kansas, Utah at UCLA, UNC and Miami. And then we got Auburn and Georgia. And of course, our block locks of the week. But let's first show you who to listen to. Based on last week's performance, you're better off doing the opposite of what these guys said. But overall, still above 500 straight up, with Blake leading the way against the spread. Carl, time to make up some ground here. The Vols are a 3-point favorite at LSU. Who gets to 5 wins first?
I'm going to go with the LSU Tigers here, being a home game. I know this is not going to make Emily happy, being a volunteer for life herself, but I think Brian Kelly, after the early loss to Florida State, he has the LSU Tigers playing really good football. They're doing great things defensively. They had a big injury in week 1 to Mason Smith, defensive tackle, but Missouri transfer Mekhi Wingo has filled that spot masterfully, and they've been playing dominant up front. I think that LSU is a tough place to play, at home, and I'm going to give the edge in this one to the LSU Tigers, 28-24.
LSU is a tough place to play at home, but it's a lot tougher at night than it is at 11 a.m. So I really like Tennessee coming off a bye week. I think that gives you a huge advantage in the SEC. LSU's has mostly got a running offensive system. They have some weapons at wide receiver. Jalen Daniels is beating people with his legs. Guess what? Tennessee just got through playing against Anthony Richardson in the same style of system. So I think that's going to benefit Tennessee. They know what to expect. Jalen Daniels is not as big as Anthony Richardson, so that helps as well. I like Tennessee in this game, 34-30. I think the bye week is the difference, and it should be a great game now.
Blake, your check is in the mail. Thank you. College game day is headed to Lawrence, Kansas for the first time ever, but it's number 17 TCU who is the touchdown favorite in this one. Blake, it's the only matchup this weekend featuring two undefeated teams. It's gonna be awesome, but who stays perfect?
This is the first time undefeated teams have played in Lawrence, Kansas in 62 years. So I'm doing an extensive breakdown of Kansas's offense and TCU's defense that I'm pretty much done with. TCU struggles in pass defense. They are very speedy in their back seven, especially. They play the same style of defense that Iowa State plays, which Kansas just played last week. Kansas has got some interesting stuff they do on offense. I really like Jalen Daniels. I think that TCU is just going to be too much for them. Their styles contrast too much, and I think TCU actually wins this game pretty easily, 44-24.
Looking at this game, obviously Kansas has had a great year. TCU off to a hot start. We're going to have a undefeated teams playing in Lawrence, Kansas. Like you said, Blake, that is unheard of for what's going on. But I think that Max Duggan and TCU's offense is going to be a bit too much. I think this is the first team that Kansas has played that can really score points in a hurry and can go possession or possession, trading with you on offense. And I think they'll get a couple of stops along the way. I think TCU beats Kansas here 40-28.
All right. Blake, you gave us the tease, but where can we check out the extensive breakdown of this matchup?
Well, it'll be on 24/7 Sports as soon as I've got a few little video clips I've got to stick in there, and my editor's got to make sure that I can spell everything correctly, but it'll be out probably the next day or two.
I like it. It's a team effort over here. Awesome. Looking forward to reading that. Another ranked matchup, this one in the Pac-12, number 11 Utah and number 18 UCLA. The Utes have won 5 consecutive in this series and has won the last 4 by an average margin of 32 points. That's not even close. So, Carl, with Utah, a 4.5-point favorite on the road, do things change this year?
Well, I think Utah right now, after losing the opening week against Florida, it seems like they've been refocused and they're playing like the football team that we all thought that they would be. UCLA is undefeated, but I don't think that they're going to be able to handle the physicality of Utah. I think it's going to be a good football game, but I got Utah winning here 31-28 in a close game.
Yeah, UCLA really impressed me last week against Washington. I was not expecting that. Washington, for some reason, for a very long time, has had games down in Los Angeles where they really struggled. But UCLA's quarterback did some things to show me that he's a baller. He's a player. They've got an interesting system that they run. Their defense is playing okay. But I got to go with Utah at home. For some reason, at home, they are just really tough to beat. They're in their sweet spot now in the Pac-12. I think this could be one of the better games of the weekend. I've got Utah winning 30-29, and I think this could be a really good game.
I like it. So neither of you guys have Utah covering, but both straight up wins over UCLA. A little ACC coastal action between North Carolina and Miami. The Canes are the 3.5-point home favorite. So Blake, does the winner of this one win that division?
I mean, I think they definitely get the upper hand. I mean, Miami on paper should be the best team in the Coastal. They're coming off a bye. I'm sure they've had some really physical practices in Coral Gables this week, preparing for this game after being embarrassed versus Middle Tennessee the week before. I got Miami big in this game. North Carolina's defense, I can't back them. They're going to give up points to anybody they play. I've got Miami winning big 45-24.
Miami struggled offensively. That's why I don't think that they're going to go crazy. But I don't think, like, North Carolina's defense hurts my head, and I don't think that they can play well enough to completely stop them from scoring the way that some other teams have been able to do. I'm going with Miami here, 28-21. I think Miami still struggles to score a little bit, but they'll score enough, and North Carolina's defense will give up some points at some inopportune times.
Whew, it hurts your head. That's not good. We need to get Gene Chizik to give you some Advil or something. Do you think that it's something that can be solved in a matchup against Miami? You mentioned the fact that Miami's offense hasn't been great as of late, but you don't think that Blake's... We'll start with you, Blake. You're shaking your head. It's over.
No, this defense, whatever's going on in Chapel Hill cannot be fixed. It's we're into week 6 now. They've been gashed every single week they played. So they're just either schematically not doing it correctly, or they can't get their guys to play assignment football. But they have shown over and over again that they are not good on defense, and so my guess is that trend will continue.
But Carl, thank goodness for Drake May, right? Is he keeping them in games as of late?
Drake May has been playing like the young superstar that people predicted he was going to be. He's going to have a great career there in Chapel Hill. Hopefully they can put a defense and a team around him to give him the opportunity to have some team success.
All right. The last time Georgia was a 4-touchdown favorite, they squeaked out a win against Mizzou. So how does Auburn fare with the same kind of scenario they got on Saturday? Carl, let's start with you.
I think that Georgia has to rebound. Georgia's had 2 tough weeks in a row. Kent State and Missouri both played those guys to the wire, but they're going back home now to play at the University of Georgia. And I think that Kirby Smart is all over his coaches, all over his players about not being complacent and taking advantage of being the top team in the country, playing like real Georgia Bulldogs. I think Auburn has lost a tough one. They gave up to LSU. They're kind of in turmoil. I got to go with Georgia right here, winning 30-14.
Yeah, Kirby Smart said that they were going to be the hunters, not the honeys this year. And so this week's the time to start hunting, because the last 2 weeks they've been off. They won, which is all that matters at the end of the day. This is Brian Harson's last 2 games at Auburn. He'll get fired after the Ole Miss game. And Georgia is going to absolutely smoke these guys 42-6.
Hold on, Blake. Hold on.
Wait. Yeah. What?
I can't just let that go without. After the Ole Miss game, you think Harsin is done?
Oh, yeah. They'll have their bye week the next week. He'll be done after the Ole Miss game.
So if he pulls off a win in one of these 2 games, though, is he safe?
What if he pull off a win?
Yeah.
Auburn won't win another SEC game the rest of the season.
Okay.
Even
though they jumped out to a 17-0 lead against LSU last weekend, they lost. Okay.
They lost.
Okay. We'll see. We're going to check the tape. We're going to come back to this. We'll see how that goes. Okay, guys, let's finish with this. Blake's block lock of the week is the Cats. -10.5 over South Carolina. Spencer Rattler is 115th nationally in total QBR. The only Power 5 starting QB ranked lower is Iowa's Spencer Petras. So the Cats, you saying they're primed for a bounce back here, Blake?
Yeah, the Cats are in a must-win position after losing a tough game to Ole Miss last week on the road, game that they could have easily won had they held on to the ball. I think that they get it done against South Carolina this week. It's a bad matchup for South Carolina. The Stoops brothers do a great job defensively. They've got Chris Rodriguez back now running the football, just gashing people like he's done his whole career. I think Kentucky easily wins this game 31-17, and the heat continues to be on in South Carolina.
Carl, you agree?
Ooh, man. Blake, I gotta go with Blake on this one. I think that Spencer Rattler has really, really struggled this year. In terms of his quarterback play, I'm gonna go with Kentucky here.
Okay.
Well, you
So
don't get to pick it. It's my pick.
I know, but
It's
I
my
want his
lock of the
thoughts.
week.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
You're
Carl,
right.
you don't get credit if you're correct as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. It's my pick, not yours.
It's Blake's luck. We'll get to yours. How about this? I usually like to end the show on a positive note, get you going for the weekend. But my former friend, Carl Reed, just will not let that happen today. So, Carl, I can't even say it out loud. What's your block lock?
My lock of the week is this. You just heard my co-host Blake tell you that LSU is a tough place to play, but it's not tough to play at 11 o'clock. You've heard him say that Tennessee is going to be all right because they just came off a bye week. Well, listen to this. I think LSU, not I think, I know LSU is going to win this game 28-24 against Tennessee. And the key component is LSU defensive coordinator, Matt House. He is very good at stopping spring offenses. Going back to his days as the DC at Kentucky under Mark Stoops when they first started going on to this run. And he's also been the linebackers coach for the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs. He's brought a new defensive philosophy in the LSU. I think they're going to give the Volunteers loads of problems and stop them enough to give Jaden Daniels a chance to make some play. My block lock of the week is LSU beating the University of Tennessee.
Carl, I didn't say they weren't tough to play during the day. I said they weren't as tough
bad,
to play during the day. They're still going to be a tough game.
Don't let me misquote you.
Anywhere in the SEC on the road is tough to play, as evident by what happened with Georgia and Missouri this past weekend. Carl, does it concern you at all that Tennessee is averaging 560 yards a game and Daniels just threw for 80 yards through the air in the last game? 80.
Oh, because I think great defense can slow down on offense. In football, the things that it takes to win still never changes. Great defense and don't turn the ball over. And if LSU does those things, they'll be fine.
But it's 2022. We're talking about offense here, right? Offense can overcome some good defense.
I don't believe that.
Not in this one?
Okay. But that's another conversation for another day.
That's a football philosophical question. Yeah. Carl, let me ask you one more thing. Do you own any orange?
No, I don't.
No, okay. If Tennessee wins, I'll send you some, and you can wear it next week. How about that?
If Tennessee wins, I will wear a volunteer hat on the show.
There we go. Okay. I'll get your address, and I'll make sure to send it to you, and it's going to be a fun Monday.
But.
No, I don't want to do anything. No, this is just you.
LSU wins, you got to wear an LSU hat.
Okay. That's fair. We'll virtually shake on it here. That's a deal. That's a deal. We'll take it. Guys, thank you so much for the great insight. Carl, no thank you for your picks. Make sure you listen to Blake. He is the genius on this show. And share this video. Be sure to subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. Enjoy all the action this weekend, and we'll see you back here Monday.